We don't.
This is the plan.
And there we go. Welcome back to the One's Ready podcast. You are in the team room, and we have one by Jared Taylor from I was going to say, Black Rifle Coffee Company, but I mean, we were just talking about it. We've got Black Rifle, Snakefarm,
and this
just
Saturday,
from State, not State Farm, Snakefarm. Yeah.
He sounds decided
hideous.
Recently to just bring it down. Like, I'm now just Snakefarm, and I sing for the band this Saturday.
Well, that's what I'm saying. We're
the best.
There's a whole bunch of different things you're involved in. So we got to
cut it away. We got to cut some away. It's like I have three reserves.
You got trim the fat. So it's been a couple months since you were on last, and that was quite a popular episode, and it's always a entertaining and good conversation with you. And we actually kind of got a little serious last time, so I think we're going to go a little bit lighter. But we did want to talk about, because I know that you're still involved in the TACP community, whether it's with the association, foundation, or just, you got a lot of friends in the community, and not just TACP, like CCT, PJ, SR, and that kind of stuff. So. And you're already tracking kind of things that are going on in the career fields. And one of the things that you specifically wanted to hit is kind of the future of the career fields. Is there anything in particular with that?
Well, I think it poses the question for all of us sitting here right now. Is there a future, or were we part of the last legacy, kind of generation that will ever exist? And I strongly believe that, yes, we were. We were part of the last real war wagon generation in these four career fields. Because everything's going to change now. The fight's different. Future wars look different. Like, technology has, I'm not afraid to say it. Technology put JTACs out of a job. And it's not just because, it's an aspect of it simplified it. No, what it did is it made it more realistic for ground force commanders in the Army to be able to do this job on their own and accurately communicate what information is needed to aircrew, to the point where the safety items from 2003 when I came in are no longer safety items anymore. Like, so there's a lot to unpack there.
Do you, in your honest opinion, with the advent of AI and the advent of the targeting suites that we have, do you think that a human needs to be involved in those firing solutions, other than the commander that is no kidding calling, essentially giving clearance for the drop, right? It's always a ground force commander that is giving clearance for those drops. But do you think that there's a need for another human in that chain?
Well, let's back up just a tad bit to go, why did we exist in the first place? We existed for a safety measure. We existed because we talked the language. We understood everything that aircraft can do, all its parameters as far as what weapons do what. And then it was our job to battle track and understand where the friendlies were on a constant basis while we're on the battlefield. Well, now technology has advanced on that with our radios that have SA, with the new helmet systems and new queuings and all these new software suites with these new helmet systems that are incorporating augmented reality. Like, now all of a sudden, when you have a small team, whether it's a platoon of infantrymen or an ODA, every last one of them that's keying up their inter-team radio is creating a queue for the pilot to see in his displays. Do you really need us anymore? That's a question we have to ask that. Like, what do we do? What are we actually doing at that point? Because can a 13 Fox do this job? Yeah. With the proper training. And I think we're falling victim to the fact that the Air Force just doesn't want to pay for it anymore. They're kind of going, hey, why are we footing the bill to give the Army JTACs? Why? They need to be doing this. Like, it was a good gig for like a 40-year span until now we do have leadership going, wait a minute.
Well,
wait a second.
It is somewhat, the term JTAC is now somewhat becoming a 4-letter word, but to your point about expenses, right? We are actually relatively cheap. We are very cheap when it comes to big Air Force, big Navy, big Army, right? Because we're not aircraft, we're not ships, we're not boats, we're not tanks or anything like that. So we are relatively cheap. And what some of the guys are doing now is more of a distributed / forward edge C2. So maybe there's some target nomination in there. Maybe it's more of battle hit assessment or battle damage assessment, or, hey, these are updates. I maybe am not able to target X, Y, or Z, but these were the last known grids as of, 1302 local, or Z, for that matter. And that kind of stuff. And because we have, using Air Force Special Warfare, the whole global access, and we have the access and placement to enable that.
Well,
so I don't necessarily think it's completely dead. If you get where I'm coming from,
I'll do the disclaimer of, hey, it's been 5 years since I've even been in a guard unit. So yeah, don't come in hot on my Instagram or something. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about, man. Like, I'm going off of, yes, what I hear from my friends, what I hear from the community, what I hear from the leaders, because my peers are now the leaders of the community. And of course, when they have issues, they love to come and bitch to me, because sometimes we want to get visibility on those issues via press or media or anything like that. Yeah. But we did this to ourselves. I will say that. We did this to ourselves by, I think, just the TACP career field in general. We never wanted to be good terminal attack controllers. And when I say that, they put the focus on us integrating with the Army much more than they put on us being good terminal attack controllers. If they wanted us to be good TACs, they would have put us, like, our squadrons, ASOSs, would have lived on bombing ranges. We would have been a counter sub squadron to a fighter or attack squadron that we communicated and integrated with every week. We would have A-29s assigned to the ASOS. So when ALOs came for a tour over to the ASOS, they then jumped in the A-29 seat, and our OIC of a flight would fly for us 2 or 3 times a week, doing CAS, still at a budget behind any other fighter squadron. And we would have made really, really good controllers, but we didn't.
Well, that's exactly what they did with PJs. PJs used to live inside the helicopter squadrons for years and years and years. And that was why, because if the helicopters were flying, the PJs were supposed to be on there, and they were supposed to be doing that joint training. And it was all coming out of the same, essentially, training line. Of course, PJs and aircrew are going to have different requirements and stuff, but that's an excellent point. It's exactly what they did with pararescue. You lived with the helicopter squadron. And even when they split them up, you're still right next door. Half the time, the rescue squadrons, the helicopters and the PJ squadrons are literally right next door to one another, and it's for that reason. And it's a very astute observation. I've never put that together, JT, but you're dead right. Why wouldn't the JTACs be at the ASOS that lives with, the ASOS should live with the fighters that they're supporting and training on?
Our largest budget item in an ASOS is that TDY training line item. It's millions of dollars. Peaches, you would know what I want to say average squadron, TDY training budget around $8 million, right? A year ish. Okay.
Not spent on. Yeah, you're talking about the entire budget, not just the CAS training.
Yeah. Well, yes. What?
Okay.
An ASOG or an ASOS's budget on, a large portion of that budget is just currency and training. It's sending guys on an airplane into a hotel to Vegas to Knitter, to sit on Knitter for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks at a time, get all their controls, and then go back to Fort Bragg, North Carolina. So it's like this goes back. I think I said this last time. I go, in the military, we've spent too many times with the book open and a piece of, there's whiteout so thick that it's like this high off the page, and we have never once just ripped the page out and said, hey, let's start over and let's do this to work for us, not us trying to create workarounds. And yes, you say that we are, TACPs and ASOSs and STs are cheap in the grand scheme of things. But when this comes to a 2-star, 3-star right now that could chop us away overnight, and the Air Force sees nothing happened to it at all. They get some pretty big kudos when 90 million, 120 million dollars just freeze up magically, and nothing stops the Air Force from running forward.
So there's a lot of so okay, I got to say the disclaimer right now. Like, we are talking, dude, you are setting me up, and I know what you're doing, and I don't like it. Okay. These are our opinions and that of our own, and not of the DoD.
Oh,
So
I'm not being specific about somebody right now that's up top. I'm saying in general, this is the way of thinking when
Right.
you get up to that level, because again, like, I feel like I have such a better understanding of a lot of these things that I replay in the military now that I've been in a company that is big as it is, with money, with dealing with money as big as it is, and sitting in these meetings where these are $100 million decisions of, or how we can do this. So now I understand the train of thought of, well, wait a minute, we could just cross that out. Nothing happens to us as a force. We don't see anything happen, and now I get the kudos that we just found this money. And to their point, though, I have to back them up on, when you have the brass sitting up at the Pentagon going, yeah, we don't know why we need this anymore. Like, they do kind of have a point.
Yeah.
And again, I was just going to say,
ahead.
if the Army is not supplementing us, so us saying, hey, by the way, United States Army, you're going to give us part of your budget to fund ASOSs because we support you. And the Army goes, well, no, we're not going to do that. We rather put that budget towards making our own 13 Fox JTACs. Like, we're back at we don't have a fucking hill to stand on.
Right. Yeah. No, for sure. And listen, you're not going to hear me argue about the whole money aspect of it. To your point about, living near ranges and supporting the Army, though, is that there is something to be said. Like, if that is the intent, and that is what is going to happen, is that integration with the Army, there is a lot to be said for being in place, embedded with the Army, because you do get that integration piece. I mean, we do it at the web school. We're bringing in AFSOC to Nellis now that are going to have a permanent facility on Nellis, so that we can increase that integration, just because.
So here's my problem with it, though, is we've always only been one toe in. So in theory, yes. So in theory, when I show up to the 14th ASOS, Alpha Flight is aligned with 1st Brigade of the 82nd Airborne, the 504th. And each breakdown of the subflights inside there is each battalion. So I was assigned to the Blue Devils, 3rd of the 504th. So in theory, we trained with these guys. We got to know the special staff. We got to know the commander. But the second things went deployed, everything got jumbled, because we only do 6 to 10 month trip maxes. The Army's doing 15 months. So what you do is you start out with your aligned unit, and then you leave halfway through, and somebody else has to backfill you. Well, by year 2, you're never with the unit that you aligned with to begin with. So in theory, yes, this was good by saying but for it to work, you would have to give them operational control over TACPs. You would have to have us as part of the Army, not at an ASOS. We would have to be where Air Force name tapes, like, and I brought this up a few years ago. I mean, with the way that they should have done it with SOCOM is ST, a controller or a TACP goes soft TACP or something like that. It's like, hey, you want to go SEALs or ODA? I'd like to go SEALs. All right, you're going to go to dive school, and then you're going to go to SEAL Team 7. You're going to be there for your entire career. You just float around. Like, your name tape still says Air Force, and you're still a JTAC, but how much more effective would integration be if you had a controller that had sat at SEAL Team 7 for 10 years and everybody knew him, like it wasn't.
Nobody would like him though.
Yeah, right.
No, I think you would have the opposite, because how many times have we walked in to a team and the first freaking month of our lives is, well, we don't know you. Well, you need to prove this to us. Like, and well, we got to find somebody that knows you too, and we got to vet you. And same thing with conventional Army. I got a 10 or 8 month deployment to Mosul, came back, got an eval, turned around and went back into the surge to a new infantry unit. And it was, these guys were cherry. Like they hadn't, the staff had not deployed yet. I had just spent 8 months in Mosul in 2005, and they wanted to hold their nose up at me like, oh, you're just an Air Force dude. What the fuck are we going to do with you? It's like, oh God, here we go with this shit again. Like I hit the reset button. I was talking to Jorgensen about it. I think he ended on 13 deployments. It's like on his 13th one, he's walking in to be a JTAC with an ODA, and the team sergeant is the only one that has deployed more than twice. The Alpha, this is his first trip, and your combat control JTAC has 13 of them under his belt.
Well, I think if we got rid of the Air Force side of the equation, right? Like I don't think the Army would have a hard time prioritizing Army targets and getting the job done. But you would expect Army brass and Air Force brass to effectively communicate on how they're going to do business without the tactical ground truth. And like, because the TACPs are down there, communicating all the time, right? Like you guys are the interpreters for what the Air Force wants to do and how to best do it and all these other things. And so if you take that out of the equation, I think the Army would do well doing what the Army does. But like at the end of the day, as we move forward in the next environments, if the Air Force has targets that they want to prosecute or things that they want to get after, if they don't have people on the ground, how are we going to say we have skin in the game to go after and prosecute Air Force centric targets when the air, like we're not going to own the air necessarily in the next, fight or whatever it is.
But if the Air Force wants to do that, they have to go both feet in to do that. And you're going to have to pull in experienced people and put together a training pipeline that truly gets our guys ready to be on their own, like a LERP squadron. Like we don't have that expertise. That concept a while back ago of them just grabbing 2 EOD guys, a STO, 2 TACPs, 2 PJs, 2 controllers, and this is now the Air Force ODA. Like, no, that doesn't work. Like,
that does not work. Which is why it's not a thing.
But that's the thing is like you would have to completely go back into the development phase, pull a lot of assets from the Marines, probably recon. Like we would literally have to mirror what they do. And we would have to pull in some of their leadership, some of their NCOs to kind of build this out for us. But if that's our route, if that's what the Air Force wants, because Trent, you and I both know, like, that's what they are going to need if we do this, like, because the Army isn't necessarily going to be really focused on surface to air threats. Like some might, but most of them will overlook it and be more worried about the tanks and the lines of artillery and shit like that. So it's like, yeah, who is going to go do that? I mean, our SOCOM elements probably will. Recce over at the Rangers probably will. But if we're planning on doing that, we would have to dump a ton of money and a ton of training now and say, hey, that's our future. Like, but what we're facing is 50% cut in TACP. They're looking at cutting even more once that 50% is over, because again, and then I'm hearing from almost everybody is like, no fighter squadron wants to do CAS. Who wants to go waste their money and budget on burning a wheel in the sky of something that they're probably never going to do in the next 15 years?
Well, and I think this is the problem is coming out of 20 years of GWOT. I think everybody thinks of war in a very specific way. And it's like, okay, you don't want to do CAS, but do you want to get shot down? And like you can send the Army in to do things, but are they up to date on how to communicate effectively, how to open up communications air to ground as well, and all the things that can affect that and all the things that are going to be in the way? Like our tech is going to meet other tech that's going to, I don't want to say zero each other out, but effectively, like you're going to be in a no comms environment. How do you get to a place, open up comms, and then effectively communicate out to get the things that you need to open up that airspace to help the ground, the folks on the ground and all those other things. And so, like, I don't care if they don't want to do CAS, but if we're still putting butts in seats, which is what apparently they want to do, like, the environment is going to be so hyper dangerous that if you don't have people solving those problems before they're over that space, they're gonna get shot down. It's going to be a bad situation.
I think the most unfortunate part of this whole thing is that all of our pipelines are the best that they've ever been right now. So we have some of the most highly qualified, highly skilled, perfectly selected people that have been through, the fucking 40 selections that they go through before they get to, like from segregated basic training to the Air Force Special Warfare Candidate Course to your guys' ANS to, like, yeah, by the time they get to the end, it's like, Jesus, how many times you got all the prep in the world. So it's like, we finally have fixed the lack of training, and the second we did, and the lack of equipment, the stuff the kids are getting equipment wise, especially on our side now, I went out to the FTU and it looked like a platoon of Rangers were running around. I was like, geez, this is freaking nice. Like, you guys got everything now. They're running dual handhelds, headsets, everything. Mm-hmm. Like, man, I was lucky to get a helmet cover for a K-Pot. So it's like, yeah, we're at this point where we have the greatest training and gear that we've ever had, but where do we go?
Well, I think that's the interesting question, and I think that there is a place. Like, I disagree with you that we kind of marketed ourselves out of a job. I think what we did is we have a value proposition to the sister services as to say, hey, GWOT is over, and we're gonna move into these new spaces, and we all think we know what the new spaces look like. Man, Russia, we have seen it's a paper tiger. Like, the intelligence community has told us for years and years and years, Russia's going to eat your lunch. Everybody's going to be. They're doing trench warfare with exquisite modern weapons in Ukraine as we speak. Like, the tactics, techniques, and procedures is not some 5th gen war. They're using World War I tactics, techniques, and procedures using modern weapons. That's what we're seeing out of Ukraine. So I'm a little bit more cynical as when we talk about, oh, well, everybody's going to get shot down. Nobody's going to be able to talk. Nobody's going to be able to communicate. I think that there is some sort of space there where the Air Force can specifically say, hey, there are some air-centric problems that we're really good at solving, and we have the people to do it. Now, it may take a huge pivot. And just like, after Vietnam, I can't remember what the cut downs were in Vietnam, but soft forces went down something like 70% across the board. They were like, MACV, SOG, SEALs, UDTs, all these other specialized units. They basically put them all back in the cage because they were like, listen, we're good. We don't have anything upcoming. And we had to reinvent the wheel. And unfortunately, it took Eagle Claw in 1979 and 80 to reinvigorate the push for soft. But do you feel like this time kind of mirrors that time where, yeah, there's going to be a drawdown. Yeah, there may be some cuts, but then we have to reorient and we find something new to go forward?
Well, first, I think you guys are the only ones wearing body armor in this equation, because at any point, the PJs are going to go, we're going back to ACC and RQS. See you guys later. Like, you still have a mission regardless. The three of us, we're the ones.
CSAR has always been forced.
Well, what if we could? But that's the thing is, I don't know where this goes. I mean, we all know, like, the problems that we've seen the tech world face with this over the fucking last 20 years. I mean, Jesus, they forced a digital CAS program down our throat that didn't communicate with the Army's digital program, that barely communicated with Link 16. So it's like everything was rushed. I mean, honestly, let's just call that. Everything is always rushed, and it fucks up so bad. And then they make us adapt to it. And then we finally kind of get a workaround, and then somebody admits that it was a huge fuck up, and we get rid of it, and we start over again.
Well, there's personal conflicts of interest in there too, because people happen to work for certain companies, so they're like, well, I get paid by promoting this and that kind of stuff, So there's too many. They're not for Team America. They're for I'm going to line my pockets.
Like when it got up to the star level that that a ton of money was dumped into a platform that didn't work, and then what they did is they made us use it. They put out a NOTAM and a regulation that says you have to use it, so they could at least cover their own ass by saying, "Oh, well, look at them. They're using it overseas right now. Look how great it works." And we're down there just jamming an ice pick into our eyes. Like,
Right. There's some definite limitations to it for sure.
Well, and that's what we're looking at. JADC2 is, it's so hot right now. So like joint, all domain, interconnected command and control. And some people are screwing this up between, is it a system? Is it a system of systems? Is it a program of record? And that's exactly what you're talking about. We have F-35s that can't talk to F-22s because we've stovepiped that innovation. And by the way, neither one of those aircraft can talk to the guys with the new crappy embedder that we've got because we don't want to use it. Like the only thing it's good for is frying eggs. Like, if give me a 148 gem and quit talking to me about it and put me on a freak that I can actually talk to somebody above my head. You know what I mean? So when we start,
when they introduced us to this DCAS platform, they were like, they pulled two of us from every squadron. And we're all sitting in this room, and they're like, they gave us this brief of the theory, and they're like, "Is that something you would like?" And I remember raising my hand, and I was like, "I don't even have enough radios to have one in my TOC right now. Like, I have to keep pulling it out of my bag, taking it to the TOC and plugging it in every day. Like, maybe we could skip this and then we just buy more 117s. Could we do that?"
Right. But wouldn't that solution only feed into your very problem, which is like, hey, we're a one-trick pony. Like, we're this guy with a 117 and we've got this one radio. Like, wouldn't you need to innovate to step into that new space? Because I keep trying to get to a point where we could talk about SR, control, and TACP integrating into some part of the thing that like you can't take them out of, right? Like, thank goodness that I am a maroon hatted bro, but like CSAR is always going to be min force and there's going to be mass casualties that we need to do, right? Like that's a truism. It's just the nature of the business. For y'all, when we start talking about it, I'm trying to get to a point where we can be like, okay, this part of the chain, whether it's in JADC2 or ground command and control or battle force picture or some sort of exposition of Air Force forces in the Army ground environment, I'm trying to get to a place where I'm like, that is the one piece that we can't remove. I think TACP has a spot there. I'm just not sure where.
Yeah, but you have to like roll back to like conventional standard TACP force. Like now that we have the FTU and these kids are coming out as certified JTACs, okay, what does the 3rd Infantry Division, 2nd Brigade, 1st Battalion need a JTAC for? What are they going to be doing? Like, what is the conventional army going to be targeting in the next 10 years? Probably fucking nothing. Like, because these are going to be strategic level targets, like that pose a threat to our Navy, that pose a threat to our aircraft. Like, they're not leaving this up to a lieutenant colonel in charge of an infantry battalion. So it's kind of
so we should get rid of the infantry.
This goes back to, I'm just saying, what the fuck?
It's all hypersonic missiles now, dude. It's all low orbit hypersonic missiles. That's it. That's how we're doing this.
To your point, I think, like, if I'm going to put on my, whatever fucking hat you want to call it, right? I
can't say wear different hats.
Hey, you're a weapons school grad. You're smarter than all of us.
You can
tell me I'm an idiot at any point.
I'm surprised he hasn't brought it up yet.
I'm actually trying to do that without telling you you're an idiot. Okay.
By all means, please.
I didn't bring my whiteboard. My whiteboard with my multiple different colors, but that's what we're doing right now. So we're training with the Navy. The Army is frankly behind. Right. They are behind because they have been stuck in that mentality that they're in that we've done the last 20 years. And that's not just soft. That's the Army. The Navy, though, Navy and Air Force recognize the challenges that we have in front of us and that we can't do it. We can't do it alone. The Air Force can't do it by itself. The Navy can't do it by itself. But together, at least in the first 90 days, we can do it together. But there are still limitations. So where does SOCOM forces fall into that? Specifically Air Force Special Warfare and NSW, right? They have major game in what the Air Force and the Navy are trying to do in the Pacific. To that forward edge C2, that distributed C2, that kind of stuff. And they're doing it right now with off the shelf things that we already have. So that's what's cool about it is that we're able to do it with what we have right now because we already have the access and placement to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but where does an E5 JTAC live now? What is he supposed to do? I mean, because
I think that's well, we've got to get away from right. So I think that's so TACP has gone to these set teams sensing. Oh, good God, I'm supposed to know the acronym too. I always do this. I always do this when I get put on the spot, but they're called
sensing something targeting.
Yeah, sensing and effects targeting teams, right? So you're taking a step back a little bit.
Why can't an intel officer do that though?
Because they don't have the access and placement, and they don't have the training to be able to, when the shit hits the fan, to be able to escape and evade and that kind of stuff. Right? They also don't know how to live out on a random island and survive.
Oh, are these guys forward?
Yes.
When you say a set team, I'm thinking that they're in a strike cell.
No. These are teams out in the field, the field, right? That are in place and doing stuff.
The Army?
No. This is just Air Force. This is just
don't say the U word. Don't say the U word.
I'm not.
Don't
No.
say it. Don't say it.
I'm not.
People will get so mad at you.
No. But that's what it is, and it is. Yeah, I know, man. I'm hitting in so much. I'm stepping in so much shit right now.
Oh, this is
like, and I know
episode where you and me get shit talked for a month.
Yeah. Well, not just that.
Why you
this
hating
is also
on
where
TACP so much? I'm not hating. I'm just asking.
Oh, dude, we get told one way or the other. We either love TACPs way too much, or we hate TACPs. It's one or the other. We never get a middle of the road.
It's never like, hey guys, that was a really measured episode. It's like all of our other friends are like, why you guys have so much TACP content? We're like, they want to come on and talk about stuff, and then the other side is
yes.
like, yeah.
I got told, JT. I got told because I asked that same thing, and I forget who I was talking to about it. But I said, it was one of the trench guys. And I said, why do TACPs say yes all the time to coming on and others, don't? And he said, well, think of it like this. It's feast or famine. We've had famine for years in the TACP career field. So now somebody's showing us attention and it's like, yes. Give me more. I
think it's also like that. I think ST guys worry too much about what their friends might think.
That's valid.
How dare you? How dare you? Hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
No, that's what I mean. It's just,
no, you're absolutely right.
I don't want to go on there. People talk shit. Who cares? Like the tech people are kind of like, my friends talk shit about me to my face because they respect me. It's when they talk shit about you behind your back, they don't respect you.
Yeah, there you go. It's because they don't respect you as a man. So, king for a day, JT. So, if you were going to come up with some scenario where, like, answer your own problem here, right? Like, where does an E5 Air Force JTAC live? Where are some those exquisite things? Do they live in non-kinetic effects? Is it support to Air Force centric problems? Is it something joint like Peaches is talking about with NSW? Like, where would you put that person that they're highly valuable, and they are?
I would rip the page out and I would delete it. There is no more E5 JTAC. There's a chief warrant officer that is a targeting and effects expert that is also a certified JTAC that is also has a foot in intelligence. Like you have.
Well, how are we going to get
this thing up?
No, I don't disagree with you, and I've always I've said for years, very unpopularly so, that I always thought PJ team leaders, like when you hit that team leader, you should be able to track to go warrant. You should be able to go exactly. You would want that guy. He's the team sergeant. He never leaves. It's just like the 160th. But the Air Force, the last warrant officer, we did have warrant officers for a long time. The last one retired in 1994. The officers are never going to allow the warrant officer.
It's all just some tool bag that's like just bent on. They don't realize, like, we made all this shit up. We can make it up to work for us, but everybody's so anti, like, making any sort of drastic change. But that's the thing is, I think in this future fight, there is no place for an E5 JTAC. What are you going to do with them? They don't have the experience. They don't have, like, you're talking basic MDMP, basic command and control, basic communications, like, how are they going to go into this style of fight in the Pacific that's going to be a highly EW war, like you're going to need your best dudes that have at least some of the tail end of the GWOT under their belt, that know how to integrate at both the brigade, division, core level of the Army, the Navy, Link 16 knowledge. And like, I just don't see where they fall into this whole fight, because there's just, what can we do with them? If you roll the clock back 15 years, an E5 JTAC, we can park at a battalion that's in Afghanistan and he can get 10 months of experience, and then we can pull him and send him to Iraq, and he can sit at a higher echelon in a planning portion of a division and understand how all of this stuff works from a bigger picture. And now we have an asset. But I don't know what you do with somebody that just comes out of school, gets their JTAC certification, and knows how to control airstrikes and load fucking half quick in his radio.
Well, that's the same as it's always been. But like, there's always a place for a highly motivated person that is a problem solver that's never going to quit to be part of any organization. Like, that's what we bring to the fight. Like when GWOT kicked off, GWOT Jared remembers. It's not like we were all experts in all the things that we were doing, but we had the people, and the people are the most important part. And we'd selected those people out through our processes. And if we're doing cuts right now, I think we have the opportunity to be a little more selective for what we're going for. And we're not soothsayers. We don't know what's going to happen or what the next phase of warfare is going to look like. But I guarantee, and if any Air Force leaders are listening to this, or Army or whatever, you're going to want the people that can solve problems, that are not going to quit, that are going to find a way to accomplish the mission no matter what. And I know, like, we get attached to these words like JTAC and reconnaissance and all these other things, but like, we need to get the right people there, and we need to plan for the worst case scenario. And like, if anybody tells you, like, I know what the next, war is going to look like and exactly what we need, like, I don't care. Like, I need a highly capable person that is flexible, that we've selected for, that is going to get out there. And that first generation of guys, like, they're going to be the same ones that in the first wave of GWOT, right? They're going to lay the groundwork. They're going to learn all the lessons the hardest way possible. And we're going to move forward from that space. But like, we're going to train them up the best we can. But if you don't have those people, if you're like, oh, all we need is intel and pilots, like, I don't know what to tell you, because there's going to come a time when you need some hard people on the ground to solve problems for you. And if we get rid of those people, we're going to be in a world of hurt.
Well, I mean, we're already on a path of a world of hurt. I mean, the Army is at the worst readiness position that they've ever been. Have you not been keeping track of like all their hardware? Almost every division's fucking vehicles are a mess. They don't have, like, the guard and the reserves don't even have money to pay their people right now. Like,
for drill,
like,
they're projecting
disaster.
Budget shortfalls for drill.
Like,
yeah,
you've got Fort Hood or Fort Bliss, who has the armor division, which they're reporting that the brass in those divisions are misreporting their readiness, like claiming that, oh, we only have like 1 in 10 broken tanks, and people are coming out, warrant officers are coming out going, no, actually like 7 of 10 are broken. Like we're going to be in a lot more like this becomes like the last thought, like having, again, like I'm going back to, I'm putting myself in the shoes of, okay, North Korea starts coming over the border. All right. What do we do? Like, where are we parking these people at? Who's where? Who's doing what? Or this whole Pacific fight, we start fighting with China. How does that break down? Does it start in Taiwan? Okay. What are we going to, this is going to be a massive air war. It's going to be a massive EW war. Like, they're going to be fucking with our electronics as much as possible. We could get EMP'd. Like, we could have satellites taken out, like GPS satellites targeted. Okay. Now we're losing GPS capability. All right. What now?
I don't know. So you know what sounds like could fix that problem is a young, motivated staff sergeant that knows how to land nav and gets that as part of their pipeline, like knows how to integrate with other folks.
I'm just saying, an M4 and a JPC ain't doing much to this fight.
Well, I mean, hey, guess what? And a mud farmer in Afghanistan wasn't supposed to be able to hold off the world's best military that it's ever seen for 20 years. And they did. And we left with our tail between our legs. So, you'll have to, I'm telling you, like, this is going to turn into coin and insurgency at some point, like this exquisite EW war with teams of beeps and squeaks that are going to be hacking and denying enemy ISR and all this other stuff. Yeah, sure. But this is going to turn, like, you're going to still have to fight. You're still going to have to fight each other in this thing.
But I think the whole thing is like, how can we prepare for an unknown fight when logistically everyone is just drawing down and like we're going this way? Like, so threats haven't changed. It's not like we got done with the GWOT and we're like, man, the world is pretty peaceful now.
Right.
But
and to be fair, like let's call GWOT what it was. Like, we did not do anything different, nothing exquisitely different about GWOT happened that was not a World War II tactic, technique, or procedure. We may have integrated technology into certain things. We didn't fight that war in any way different than we fought World War II. We use the same exact tactics. 100%. It's been the exact same. We included some technology that made us more deadly. We included some better weaponry that made us, able, instead of carpet bombing things, we can now put bombs inside of, whatever weak spot in the roof. But when we didn't really change differently as a military from, from World War II and Vietnam into GWOT. So, we always prepare. To your question directly, how do you prepare for the unknowable? We do the same thing that we always do. Most likely, most deadly. We know what the threats are. I think you're right. And I think that we have a way to innovate, and you let those young folks innovate and get a way forward. Now, if you don't even give them the space to, I think we could realign better. I hear you on unity of effort. I agree. I hear you on unity of command. Hard agree. I think there should be a single umbrella that houses all of our special warfare cats and dogs and support, as a matter of fact. But
East Coast,
I don't know how we get there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, also too,
absolutely.
Like everybody else.
How do you even train for? I mean, what happens when 4 major cities in the United States gets nuked? And, the military has never thought, like, I've never seen them train or even discuss, like, your home city is now destroyed. How do you maintain?
Well, I mean, that was one of the themes. Yeah. Well, that was one of the themes in the kill chain that they brought up so well is, this isn't just about, and they did a good job up here at JBLM, quite honestly, because one of their contingency plans that they planned for was like, hey, hypersonic missile, this isn't a load up, everybody that you can home station here, and then let's just logistically flow people over and we can go wherever we want. One of the problem sets that they had to work was Base X that was here stateside took 7 hypersonic missiles in the middle of their runway. And now we don't have a fourth of our C-17 fleet. Now what are we going to do? Yeah. So that's the problems that you're looking at. And like, does a E5 TACP solve that problem? No. But is it the right people that can respond to things like that? And it's going to take an integrated response.
Your force. Like how do you combat the psychology of your force? Like, if this is the future, like, I mean, with Putin getting old and dying, like there is a chance he says, fuck it.
Well, I think, I don't necessarily know. It's just the psychology of our force. Like we actually talk about this, that is one of the arguments. Not that I'm saying I'm a proponent for this or what One's Ready is a proponent for this or whatever.
You're already fired, Jared. Quit putting disclaimers out there. We're already canceled. We already can't put this out. You might as well just send it, bro.
It kind of goes back to, hey, making sure that we are the partner of choice and being that we are still sharpened by doing operations in combat, so that we have that psychology of, well, this is just normal operations. This is what we do. And now I've got to respond appropriately. Whereas if we are in a complete peacetime where we're not conducting any operations, we get soft. I mean, and that's kind of what we did before 9/11 happened, is we just kind of, all right, well, there's nothing going on. We can get soft. We can relax a little bit.
Like, because you had Jacob Frazier was killed in March of 2003. And then April, Ray Lozano was killed. I was in block 1 of the schoolhouse when Ray Lozano was killed. And I saw the instructors. Like, all of a sudden, one TACP dead in March, another TACP dead in April. This just became real. It wasn't the late 90s with cool TDYs to Barstow, California, sitting on top of a Humvee controlling A-10s. Oh my God, we're at war and guys are dying. Like, and this was like,
and it's not just the warfighter. Yeah, and it's not just us that have got to have that resilience, and that in that mental robustness, but it's got to be in the maintainers. Like that's what we're doing now, and I know that people have talked about agile combat employment and stuff like that. We've been doing it for a long time, but like the maintainers haven't, where it's like, hey, you don't get your whole crew. You don't get the cart that goes with the aircraft. You get a backpack full of tools, and you need to make this thing fly with your crew of 7.
Basic training, like they've softened basic training, where they're now, I guess they just tried to they're attempting to integrate this whole, the first 2 weeks are no yelling, no, they wean on to the craziness of basic training. So it's like, no, we're going to face a shit ton of, this is where I'm going back with the whole psychology, social problems. We're going to have a lot of them in this next war. You're going to have people like disappearing, going AWOL. Like that's what I mean. It's like, we've never experienced something where you're deployed to a fight and your hometown got hit. Like, and now all of a sudden half your forces disappeared because they're trying to make their way back home. Like, these are just things I'm throwing out, thinking about like, hey, this next one could get pretty crazy.
It will.
With BMT though, I don't know. Just because something is different, and I'm a little sensitive to this, obviously, because we hear about it all the time from where we're at. To me, like the idea is to ramp these folks up, and in theory, if the most intense moment in BMT is more intense than it used to be, but you ramp people up to it and hopefully achieve learning objectives throughout that course, just like we try to do with our pipeline. Like, if you go in and you get smacked in the face in the beginning of BMT, which was awesome and a lot of fun, right? But like, how much did everybody learn after that once your cortisol spiked? Maybe not us, but like everybody else, right? So like, there's a lot of things that people are trying to incorporate, and I understand how it looks to the outside. And I'm not saying that eventually it might not end up the way that you think it's going to end up, but the theories behind it, based on the current population of people coming in, like, you could have a more intense, the peak of the training could be higher, whereas the entrance level is a little smoother. Sorry, I just wanted an agency nerd out for a second.
I don't know if the peak is, the problem is like, we as instructors, all of us here know that the whole purpose of us getting rowdy and making it suck is to get them used to being uncomfortable and still being able to function.
Mm-hmm.
And we have been bastardized of that since 2009, essentially, since the controller died in the pool in 2009. They have chipped and chipped and chipped and chipped away, both on our pipelines and just general of creating this artificial stress. So these people become callous to it. And that's where I think we're going to see a lot of problems that we have not thought about that we would have with this new generation coming in with whatever this next fight is. Like, I mean, these kids just are not used to, something not be like, oh, well, I don't have AC. Yeah, it doesn't exist where we're at right now. We just don't have it. We don't have power. Like, we're on a generator, 1/4 of the day. You have to make it work. Like, I don't think this new generation fucking can comprehend that, because it's just not conceivable to them.
I always love talking to Vietnam vets because they say the exact same thing that you just said, except they say it about you.
Yeah.
The Vietnam vets will look at you right to your face and be like, when you got in, they're like, I've had Vietnam vet PJs, and they would come to the family days, and they were always welcome additions. And we would sit up there and talk, and they would see the class video, and they'd see the guys wearing the gear, just like you had that experience down at the FTU. You're like, holy cow, these guys have, the best gear that they could possibly have. I've had a Vietnam era PJ, highly decorated guy, look at me and go, oh God, with all this equipment, shit, I could have done this until I was 65. I can still do more push-ups than everybody. And I kind of looked at him and I was like, hey, I understand, but like, you don't think that that's taken away from this young, he's like, these young generation, these guys are soft. Like, I had a lens attic, I had a flak jacket. We didn't even bother wearing it because it was too heavy. You just sit on it in the helicopter. So I get what you're saying. Like, it's these young kids, and every generation is a lost generation. And that started back with Socrates. But, do you think that there's a way that we could train this? Like, I agree with you. Like, there's 40% less testosterone floating around in every single, 20-year-old male that they did, as opposed to 15 or 20 years ago.
Like the candidate course is saying they're losing almost 40% entry levels just because of bone density problems? Like because kids aren't going outside anymore?
Yeah,
They're not
yeah, we can
playing
onesie
sports?
twosies these problems all we
Yeah.
want, but we still have the exact same attrition rate throughout our pipelines as we had
Well, I wasn't
before.
necessarily-
And granted, we put other factors, things in place to try to help out, but like it's weird, like how many times we have the conversation with everybody that runs a selection course anywhere in the DoD, the exact same
It's gotten
percentage of
easier.
people coming in the front door are coming out the back. No
Well, I
matter
wasn't
what.
referring to our pipelines in this. I'm talking about regular Air Force when he's talking about
Yeah.
maintainers
Just-
of
Just
I'm
just
afraid
society.
I'm afraid, yes, of the future of the
Yeah.
TikTok generation.
No,
Like
I,
when
I agree with you. I'm 100%. Because I'll tell you what, because strong men make easy times make
I was
weak men,
just
weak
thinking
men. Yep. Weak men make hard times. And we're right about it that weak men makes, hard times. And thank goodness that we didn't continue on the trajectory. Like in the doldrums of the lockdowns, like in the middle of that 2020 to 2023 period, man, I was super cynical. I was for sure. I was like, we're going to go to hell in a handbasket. And thank goodness there's been a little bit of a backlash. The pendulum swung too far. And now you see people talking about this is what you need to do to be a man. You need to get outside. You've got people like Nick Koulamatos that are out there that are literally training young men how to be good men. We had Chief Etheridge on, Caleb Etheridge came on, and he's part of an organization that, no kidding, like he'll teach you how to land nav and he'll teach you how to build a fire, but 75% of his day is, no, this is how you be a good stand-up man. This is the morals and ethics that you need to have. And let's get you outside.
Runs a camp about that too. Like, they're
right.
teaching
And you never heard of it
teenage
5 years
kids
ago.
how to change tires and
Yeah.
But it's a big thing now.
And it's a big thing because we need
and I
it.
love it. I love it. Like,
Mhm.
hey, right on, because you recognize the issue that we have right now and the potential issue that we have coming on in the future. It's recognize it and go, and I am still in a capacity to serve the next generation. And I know that it is important to do that. Kurt Bowler's doing the same thing.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a bunch of them, and right on. I love it.
How far? What do you think we need to do, JT? What do you think we need to do to fix the society on this? Because I agree with you. Like, is there a way? Is it a thing where we start engaging earlier and we start helping society? Like, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Or can we adjust our pipeline or our selection process in such a manner that we can only select out for the hardest?
No. I think the pipeline and the selections are running as efficient and as best they've ever been right now. As far as the society as a whole, I mean, that's a whole nother web of mess. Like where, I mean, it starts at schools, it starts in middle school and high school. Like you have to have leaders in the schools that are pushing these ideologies. But sadly, the people that attract education are the social justice crowd, and they rather push ideologies of a bunch of made up bullshit. So, like, I don't know what that answer is, but the only thing that you guys can do and can control is keeping the pipelines, as good as they can be, and keep using data to update them and make them better. Like how they are now, we're seeing the lowest level attrition rates inside our actual AFSC courses now. Why? Because we fixed the hopper on the beginning. And that means we are more cost effective, more efficient, and have a better product on the outside than we've ever had, because now instructors are spending more of their time teaching when they get to the AFSC portion of the school than they are trying to select.
Yeah, I think in a way, putting that Aaron to that, king for the day kind of thing, and you can just wave a wand and make it happen. One of the things I think we've got to do is get a common core skills course for the 4 aspect war career fields. It's almost like we've talked
Trent's
about.
Head is going to explode.
I know.
It is going to blow.
It's been talked about for years.
I tried.
I know.
I tried, guys.
Just like the Q course. Like, that's the thing, is we don't have to reinvent the wheel. Copy the Q course. Like, phase, selection, phase 2, all the same for everybody, and then we go off to our respective MOSs.
Yep.
Come on, Trent. Why haven't you done that yet?
Yeah.
Well, there wasn't enough bed space at Kirtland at the time, but they
Right.
had the land. But you put it all in one location, single supply. Like it would be more cost effective after all the milcon and all that other stuff. Everybody learns the exact same thing, so we don't have to like keep looking at each other's CFETPs to make sure that we're all shooting pistols to the same level. And then like fewer instructors are required, more consistency, and then like it just makes way too much sense. But like the cost up front was.
Yeah, and if you do that with the
time.
operational units, it's the same thing. It's you could essentially, for the same amount of combat support folks, you could combine 2 units. Now, if you throw a third in there, then maybe you're going to need to go 1.5 times the amount of special warfare mission support. But like, it makes it's.
But
it's
if
efficient.
if you look at this from an equipment standpoint and you divide the equipment in half to home station and deployed, and you never have to bring the deployed stuff home, this becomes very cost efficient.
Yeah.
Because you turn every single overseas, like there should be no overseas unit. Those should be deaths.
Yeah, if you got 3 squadrons,
Those should be warm,
falling
essentially
into
warm
the
bases.
gear.
Yeah. Crazy.
Whoa,
Crazy. Talking crazy, JT.
Yeah, this was a hilarious strategy episode. It's like we're playing Risk.
Yeah, it's so we're definitely playing Risk because that is one reason. That is the only reason why I have not sent an invite to Dan Holloway, because I would love.
If Dan comes on one
chat with
ready,
him.
you will have an email in your official email.
I know, but I would love to pick his brain, because he has said some things that are amazing, and he has said some things that I have disagreed with, and I'd love to have that debate with him. I just can't right now.
I just can't, because I
just
value
can't
my
right now.
job and my career. I
Yeah.
love feeding my kids food, says Jared.
Yeah. I like
love
eating,
not
and I need the
having
money.
4 stars up my ass.
Yeah. Which I might after this episode. I mean, hey,
Yeah,
whatever,
who knows?
right?
Why?
Who
We
knows?
didn't talk
But
any
dice,
shit
dude.
about any
No.
leadership.
No,
Of
but what
course
I
not.
like bringing up leaders. And I'll say this as something just to kind of put perspective, and this is what he said a couple weeks ago, and I won't say which Magicom commander it is, but he said, "Hey, listen, we have lost our eye on the prize, being we need to maintain a pace with near peers, right? And we kind of got lost in that 20 years. We didn't get lost in Vietnam. We kind of peaked away real fast, handled business, and then came right back in. We did it for all the other things with that, except for GWOT, whereas we kind of got distracted, and we got distracted for a long time, and now we're behind.
Yeah.
Agreed.
So we're playing catch up.
Yeah, we are.
You got
Well,
the right people, though.
I'm still an
That's
idealist.
The most important thing.
Yep, I've taken the white pill, man. I've got some hope. Like, I am not ready to give this thing up quite yet. So I think we'll be able to get there, but there are problems for sure. And I think we all can recognize those.
Can I just say, if you're a person out there and you are the experienced person and you've been in 15 years or whatever, and you want to blame the younger generation, like that's your responsibility. Like, I know that there's problems and the younger generation can be super annoying and they're a bunch of nerds and all that other stuff, but it's our responsibility to make sure that they are ready and willing to defend the country and do what we ask them to do. Like that's our responsibility. It's not their responsibility. So it is, but stop. It's not going to do you any good just like going on and on about how terrible they are.
And I don't think it's ever been a lack of willing. I think it's always been they love to keep us on the leash. Let the leash go.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, JT, we're going to have to for this next thing. If it goes the way that everybody thinks it's going to go, we're going to have to.
Mm-hmm. Guns
listen,
up, baby.
as an E4, yeah. If you're an E4, E5, whatever it is, like, hey, go do your thing. You have commander's intent. We have implicit trust in you. Go do your thing.
You better have a tomahawk as your third weapon.
There you go.
That you can just chuck.
That's it.
All right, JT, you got any projects before we wrap it out? You want to shout out there, or are you good to go?
No, not much here. I mean, I'm heading to the 24-hour run for the TACPs on Thursday. Going to be talking about some of the guys up on the wall that morning before they kick off the run. Snakefarm will be out there in force. We'll be giving away some new custom special decks. I've got a new I'm in development right now of a really cool Danny Sanchez memorial deck.
Nice.
That'll be out soon. So I'll shoot that over to you guys once it's out. So yeah,
Hell yeah.
Awesome.
Snakefarm for all your skateboarding needs.
That's it. All right.
Love it.
Well, always a good conversation. We appreciate you joining us, and we'll have to have you back on again. Obviously, you know this. You always have an open invite. So,
Whatever you guys
everybody,
want, you know. And next time you're allowed to say, "Shut up! You're full of shit. You haven't been in a debrief in 7 years."
no, see that's
section
that's
take care of
that's
that.
that's the great thing about it is I could just do that without saying it. You know. All right, don't forget to like, subscribe, leave us a review. I'm tired of not getting reviews. Tell us how terrible we are. All right, we're out here.
Later.
Later.